Women's Australian rules football is one of the fastest growing sectors of Australian sport, with participation numbers increasing at an incredible rate. Local community clubs are experiencing record player registrations, providing a pathway for girls and women to continue playing the sport they love. Females now represent 27% of the total football participation in Australia. 2017 has been a historic year for Australian sport, with the launch of a professional women's AFL league, following in the footsteps of sports such as soccer and cricket. However, while those sports struggle to find an audience, the AFLW has emerged as a ratings juggernaut. Huge crowds at the game and massive television audiences at home has seen this sport catapulted into the limelight, creating role models for young women and making a positive impact in society. Ben Gibson reports into this sporting phenomenon.
Thanks for that, Ren. Women's VFL kicks off this weekend. We're down at Mulgrave Reserve ahead of the Eastern Devils' final training session. Let's go talk to some of the girls. Women's football is on the rise. Clubs like here at the Eastern Devils have gone from filling one team to 3 teams, as girls are looking to play football all across Australia.
Clubs are now providing a pathway for female footballers at all age levels. But for Hannah Scott, it's a pathway that never existed when she was growing up.
I started playing footy when I was 9, and then that was with the junior boys, and then I was told at the age of 11 that I couldn't anymore. So I went away and played basketball till I was 19, and then just had to go back and find a team because I missed it that much.
So were there any opportunities at all to play women's footy at this stage?
There was, I just didn't know about it. So I played it through school and yeah, just played like a higher level basketball, and then when I sort of heard that it was, you know, getting bigger and happening, I went and found a club and started playing again.
And was there any media coverage of the women's footy whilst you were a teenager growing up?
No, that's why I had no idea if there were women's teams. I didn't know that if there was a youth league or anything at that stage. I'm not sure if there was, but yeah, it wasn't really talked about at all. When I was younger, I would say to my mum that all I wanted to do was play AFL.
It didn't stop her from making it to the AFLW, playing this past season for the Western Bulldogs.
Tackle from Hannah Scott. Ran her down, umpire says holding the ball. Donald pressure. Awkward kick from Faruja. Clears Lachlan. Scott at the back. Can get free.
But it's being a role model that is a major highlight of the inaugural competition.
What's it like being a role model for the young girls?
I love it. I love kids. I've been doing some little coaching stuff with an interleague down in Frankston and the Yarra Junior, and I just think that we had people that were always giving to us as we were coming through the ranks of football, and I just want to give that back and just help this grow. And I think the next generation of female footy players are going to be out of this world.
For Lou Wotton, she is excited about playing the game she loves again.
I started playing in 2002, so I'd finished high school and actually came down to the Devils. We were known as the Deakin Devils back then, and I played for 13 years, and then I actually retired, and I'm coming back out of retirement this year. Having retired and coming back to footy, I find anything now as a bonus. Like, I feel so lucky to have been able to pull on the boots in AFLW. I thought I never would have got that chance. It would have been too many years away, and the game would have gone past me. So yeah, I just feel really lucky anything.
So it's obviously come such a long way. And as far as the media coverage goes,
I guess it's really come in leaps and bounds. Before this season, there were a couple. I think there was one televised match, but to have all our games televised was just out of this world. I'm a school teacher, so I'd have kids, come up to me in the schoolyard and say, "Oh, I saw you on TV on the weekend, miss," and that was pretty surreal.
So as a teacher and just in general, there's some sort of fame for you now. What's it like being a role model to these young kids?
I wouldn't say I'm famous because I'm a little bit older and less unknown and not one of those big players. But to be a role model for the students is awesome. My school's actually a sporting school, so we have female AFL athletes. And for them to have myself, and we've also got another teacher at the school who played for Bulldogs, is something really good for them.
Meg Hutchins sees a bright future for the state of women's football.
The opportunities available now for the girls. The pathway is 100% complete from Auskick all the way up, and I think that'll hold the game in good stead.
And was there any sort of media coverage of your events or anything like that as far as women's footy is concerned?
Probably more so just in the local newspapers, the leader newspapers. So you just maybe have an occasional article here and there if we pushed hard enough to get it in there. But obviously you see how much coverage is happening now.
We welcome you along to our coverage of the inaugural AFL Women's Clash. And here come the Pies, led out by skipper Steph Chiocci.
Playing in the first ever AFLW match is a moment she remembers fondly.
I think I'm going to take a little bit of time to actually process how awesome that was. It happened so fast, but it was just so overwhelming that, as I said, it's going to take a while for me to process. But to be part of that and to know that there's only 44 of us that were part of it, it's a pretty special thing, and obviously something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. So we couldn't hear each other when we were out there. It was so loud, and to know that there were so many neutral supporters there as well, that was probably a really important thing for the game as well, that the people just wanted to come and witness history. So, yeah.
So being in the public eyes, you're now a role model for a lot of young kids. How's that for you?
Oh, that's probably the most important thing to me, to be able to have an influence on a younger person's life. That's I guess the power of the AFL women's competition and women's sport in general, is that you can actually influence people now and influence their lives, and that's a pretty amazing position to be in, but a massive responsibility too.
And where do you see the game going?
Look, it could become a fully professional competition where I see it heading, because the interest is there and the participation rates obviously increased since the start of AFLW.
What a fascinating insight from some of the stars of women's football. Looks like there's going to be a great future ahead. Let's go back to Ren in the studio.
Thanks for that report, Ben. Now, one of the key players at the forefront of this expansion into the women's football has been Collingwood Magpies captain Steph Chiocci. Steph joins us on the line to discuss the past, the present and the future of women's football. Steph, thank you for joining us.
No worries at all.
How did you begin in women's football?
I started playing back in 2006 as a 17-year-old. So back then for me, there was no youth girls competition like there is now, and no real pathway for a girl to play football after the age of 12, where she could no longer play with the boys. So I begged mum and dad to let me play, but the only option for me was to play straight in a senior women's team, skinny girl. So I think they were a little bit worried about me, making that plunge, I suppose, into football. But yeah, thankfully they did say yes. So I started in 2006 at Diamond Creek, and I've been there ever since.
What do you remember of the coverage of women's football at this time?
Look, I honestly couldn't even tell you whether we had any coverage. I know they used to tape the game for our own personal viewing, I suppose, and you could buy DVDs of it, but it was certainly not broadcast anywhere that I can remember. And I think you would be pretty lucky to find a radio station that would have taken that on board. I could be completely wrong, but I would have, I'm pretty confident that there was no coverage of that game. If you flash forward, 20 odd years, it's pretty amazing to see where we've come.
In 2010, you were part of a 40-woman select team to participate in a high-performance camp at the AFL. What do you remember of the media coverage of this historic event?
Yeah, so the 2010, it was a high-performance academy. So essentially it was the girls that were identified during the national carnivals in the years prior to the All-Australian team and squad. So that sort of was our first insight to, I suppose, elite behaviours, and we were on a weekend camp here in Melbourne, and we got to sort of brush shoulders with some AFL players. I think Scott Lucas was involved back then. I can't really remember who else was there, but we had talks in relation to nutrition, leadership, physiotherapy, and how to manage your bodies and those sorts of things. But that was really, in its infancy for us, because there was no real talent pathway.
In 2013, you were the number 1 draft pick for the Western Bulldogs for the exhibition match against Melbourne. What do you remember of the media coverage of this event?
Holding that at the MCG was a pivotal point for women's football, and great to have Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs on board supporting us and in those AFL teams in the exhibition series. And every year it did get bigger and bigger.
Steph, in 2016, you were captain of the Bulldogs team in the All-Stars game against Melbourne. It was a capacity crowd at Wynn Oval and over 387,000 viewers at home. What was it like being part of this historic moment?
There was genuine interest there in the end, and I think people could see that we had a product that was entertaining and highly skilled, and was definitely a really good introduction to the AFL women's competition this year.
These exhibition games were a kickstart moment for AFLW. Did you realise that at this time?
The more exposure, the better for us, and I think people got a big taste of what AFLW is about.
How has the game grown during your playing career?
Yeah, look, it really it warms my heart to see just how far women's football's come, and especially at the grassroots level. We've got over 100 girls registered now, the seniors alone, not even including our junior teams, and we're fielding 5 of those. So look, it's phenomenal, the growth of women's sport, but it just goes to show that when you've got something to look at and you can see it, then you start believing it, and then that gets people involved. And it's amazing that girls can now aspire to play AFL women's, and there's a clear pathway for them from the Auskick all the way through to youth girls to talent academies and into the big time. And I think that's really important now that they have those role models to look up to. And I'm really, really proud to be playing my part, and obviously cover captaining down at Simon Creek is an honour. I've been a captain there for a few years now, and it just gets bigger and better every year, and I'm really proud to be leading that club.
Now, Steph, you've been at the forefront of the AFLW expansion. You were drafted by Collingwood. What was the anticipation like going into the draft?
Yeah, look, a lot of uncertainty going into the draft. I suppose just what the boys have felt in the past, where you'd spoken to a few clubs that you weren't too sure who was going to pick you and at what number, but I think the overriding emotion and feeling was excitement, because you knew you were about to get an opportunity at AFL level. And it's a day or night that I won't forget, that's for sure. And really grateful for the opportunities that Collingwood have provided me, and I hope I'm there for a long time.
You were selected by the playing group as the inaugural captain of the club. There's an iconic photo of you at Icon Park, about to lead the players out of the race. I was at the game, and it was one of the greatest sporting experiences I have ever witnessed. What was it like being part of the game?
Yeah, well, firstly, obviously incredibly humbling and honoured to have been elected as captain, especially because it came from my peers. And again, very, very lucky and fortunate to be in that position. We have fantastic people at our club, and I'm very well supported. But to lead the girls out, in front of 25,000 people at Icon Park at night, I'll never ever forget. It's a moment in my footballing career that I think will go down as one of the best, and it still gives me goosebumps to think about how many people were there and just what it did for women in sport and women's football, and standing side by side with the girls as the anthem played, and just feeling the emotion of the crowd. And it was something spectacular, and then to hear that it was a lockout that exceeded our expectations. And I'm pretty sure I'll hold on to that memory to the day I die.
What has the coverage been like for the inaugural year of the competition?
It was incredibly professional, and there's strict rules and regulations surrounding the broadcast, and you need to be on the ground at a certain time for your warm-up. You need to make sure you're running through the banner at a certain time. So things that we weren't really prepared for, because we're not used to it. But fortunately we have great team managers that kept us in line. But it was great having the Channel 7 cameras there and Fox Footy capturing every moment of the AFLW season. And I think I don't know the viewers' ratings or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure it rated quite well. And I know that the AFLW Grand Final had more in attendance at the game than the Q Clash, more people watching the game. So I think that speaks for itself. So can't fault the coverage in that sense, and hopefully going forward we have more free to air games, and those without Foxtel can actually access it that way.
What was it like being a role model for girls and young women?
Yeah, it's funny. I never really see myself as a role model, and it's really humbling when you get called a role model. But look, like any of the female footballers, we just want to make sure that these young girls, athletes, boys and girls even, have people to aspire to be, and have really good role models in their lives. that are promoting, health and wellness and fitness. And I think that's what it means to me, especially with my teaching background. But also, I suppose for women's sport, it means that young girls now can have idols like your Daisy Pearce and your Katie Brennans and those sorts of players who they can aspire to be like. And if they wanted to play AFL women's, then fantastic. But if we're their role models in sport in general, then, as long as we're impacting on their lives in a positive way, which I'm sure we are.
Where do you see the game in 10 years' time?
Look, I hope that it's a full-time profession for female footballers that, with 18 clubs running side by side with the men's competition during winter. I think that's where it's going, and I hope that it does happen because, we deserve that, and the youngsters coming through have got a lot of talent, and there's a lot of people working extremely hard behind the scenes to ensure that those pathways are there for the young girls to aspire, to be in that AFLW competition. So, look, I hope it's a full-time profession for these athletes.
Where do you see the level of media coverage in 10 years' time?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but, we can't fault the media coverage from this year, and I really don't have the ins and outs of what goes on there, but I think it's more so having those female role models in the media. So you're starting to see Daisy Pearce now on Channel 7, boundary riding, and obviously on the AFL game day, and Abby Holmes is doing a lot of work in that field as well. So I think the more females we actually get involved in the media will be better for our sport and sport in general. So I think that's probably an area where we need to improve on. But, a lot of the games had female commentators, and as the game evolves, we'll have ex-players from the AFLW League hopefully get involved and share their insights as well. So.
Thanks for tuning into the Ben and Ren Show. It's been great looking at the growth of women's football in Australia. The league is poised for big things in the coming years. We'll see you next time.